And welcome into Tennessee Tuesday on this Tuesday evening. It's October the 21st. I'm your host, John Blankenship, with you until probably around 8 o'clock or so this evening. We've got a great program lined up. Thank you for being a part of the program each Tuesday here on SCV Chat. It's going to be a good evening, and as Moose shared on some of the social media posts earlier, we're going to try something a little different this evening on the program, as I don't have a guest live with me that's going to join us, but I'm going to pull out something from a Confederate memorial service from 2022, which is going to be a great, interesting program tonight on some of our veterans. So that's going to be good. That's a surprise. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up here in just a few minutes. So again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please share this video on your different groups, whether you're watching on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook Live this evening. We encourage you to share this out, and we'd like to grow this channel even more and more. So just saying hello to a few folks that are jumping on with us this evening. Mr. Elliot Jackson is with us tonight. Also Todd there, the California Division Commander, joining us, and a few others here. Al, we appreciate him joining as well. And we thank you all for watching for another edition of Tennessee Tuesday. Moose off this evening. Jason Boshears has a SCV camp meeting, so you've got me solo tonight. And again, we're glad to have you with us. So all that has been established, and let's kind of jump into a few things news-wise tonight. Then we've got a special video presentation, which will take about a half an hour of tonight's program. Lots of things have been sent in to us, and we thank you so much from those from the Tennessee Division and beyond that have shared some of their upcoming events that are going on. So let's pull some of these up here tonight, and we'll go through a few of these, and then we'll look at some things the camps have been doing, then get into our special presentation a little bit later on this evening. And let's just jump right into this one that's coming up, the General Hatton camp there in Lebanon. They are a very active camp, and it clearly explains why they are always a camp of the year and do a fantastic job. You'll see there, they're inviting you coming up on October the 30th. That's this next week there at their location in Lebanon, where they'll be meeting. Past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney will be the guest speaker. Of course, he'll be portraying General Beauregard's. So if you'd like to RSVP for that event, I'm sure that's going to be a full house. Again, if you've never heard past Commander-in-Chief McClooney's presentation of General Beauregard, you're missing out. So make your plans to be there with them coming up this next week in Lebanon. A great job Tom Wood and his camp do bringing you some great programs. So several things happening there, and we'll jump through a few more of these. We mentioned a couple of these over the past couple of weeks, but we do want to put them out there once again and let folks know that may be in these areas that if you'd like to attend these. This one is going to be, of course, at the Sam Davis home in Smyrna. This is coming up October the 24th, the 25th, and then on Halloween night, the 31st. So that's Friday and Saturday of this week. And then next Friday they're having their History After Dark. They start at 7 o'clock. So arrive there and get your tickets for the evening. And that's coming up. And also another one they have coming up in December, which is going to be on December the 6th at 7 o'clock. Their After Dark Curious Christmas. Neat way to portray the story there of the Davis family and the Sam Davis home. So a couple of events they've got coming up. So if you haven't made it to any of those in the past, I believe you'll thoroughly enjoy those. So a couple of things coming up. Let's see other folks that are joining us this evening live on the chat. I see Chuck has joined us. Good to see him this evening. Also, Mr. Luray joining us there. Hope he's doing well. We'll share a few of these others here. David Pope there in the Valley of East Tennessee. Good evening up in the Knoxville Way. Also a few more here from old Kentucky right up the road. Joining us. And then Benjamin Walker this well as evening too, on with us on Tennessee Tuesday. So thank you for all of y'all watching this evening. If you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Tennessee Tuesday, we've got a few avenues that you can find us on social media. Of course, on Facebook, there is a group that you can join. There is also a Facebook page as well, listed under Tennessee Tuesday. Check out such places as YouTube as well, and you'll find our channel there. Of course, all of the SCV chat channels as well. We are shared there too. And Tom has corrected us here. And Tom, let's see, I think we mentioned that last time, and let me pull that banner back up. And we will get that corrected for you this evening. This is what makes this live the best. Again, you can see somebody's tagged in that where I pulled that from social media, Tom. That's my fault there, where I pulled that from. And you can see there's the corrected email, woodth25@gmail.com, if you would like to be a part of that event that's going on there in Lebanon coming up on October the 30th. So a good program there they've got coming up. Another event on the way, the Hatton Camp also has. Now, I know we're featuring several of these this evening from them. They've got a lot going on. So if you have an event, we'll tell you a little bit later on how you can send that to us, and we'll make sure we share it on the program on Tuesdays. Of course, the Hatton Camp going to honor General Robert Hatton. That will be on November the 1st. That's Saturday, November the 1st at Cedar Grove Cemetery there in Lebanon. A special event there they'll have to honor his memory. Also, one more from the Hatton Camp. Their turkey shoot is coming up on November the 15th and the 16th, and also December the 6th. This is shared, of course, on their Facebook page, Hatton Camp SCV, and you can get all these details, and you can make notes of all the things that are coming up there. And we'll have to get Tom on again in the future to talk about some of these events that he has coming up there at the Hatton Camp in Lebanon. Great job those guys do, and we appreciate them sending those into us this evening. A good evening to a few more folks that are joining us. We'll throw a few of these comments up on the screen. Mr. Roy Hudson joining us from Florida. I hope y'all are having a good evening. Also, we mentioned Mr. Walker joining us. Daniel with us as well. So we thank you all being along with us this evening. Again, share this video, and we would greatly appreciate that. Let's go ahead and look at some other events. We have several things that have been sent in to us this week, and this next one coming up is the Sam Davis Memorial Day event. This happens every year. Been to a few of these and plan to be there this year again. I have my hotel booked to spend the night in Smyrna the night before. This is Saturday, November the 22nd from 2 until 4. This will be at the Sam Davis home, of course. There's a special guest speaker, and then the graveside service there to remember the life of Sam Davis. I believe Jason Boshears is going to be the speaker at the graveside, and they haven't yet to announce the main speaker for the event that evening, Saturday, November the 22nd, that afternoon, starting at 2 o'clock. That's always a good event. Let's go ahead, and something we need to do as we start out the program this evening, we need to give you our disclaimer and tell you that these opinions that you are hearing expressed on this broadcast are not those of the SCV, its GEC, or any divisions, camps, brigades, or others. These are entirely my own views that you will hear this evening. Jumping ahead to another one in Tennessee. Tennessee has a lot going on right now. I'm glad to share all these events. Champ Ferguson Standing Stone Camp 2014 has the 204th birthday celebration of Champ Ferguson. That's coming up on November the 29th at 10 a.m. So keep that in mind. That'll be here before we know it. A good event there as well. We also want to say thanks to our sponsors this evening here on SCV Chat and Tennessee Tuesday, the Patreon sponsors. You can become one of those as well. Go to scvchat.com and you can learn more about how you can sponsor at the different levels this program and all the programs that you hear on SCV Chat. Others coming up, this event here sent in to us, the Pea Ridge reenactment event is going to be December the 6th and the 7th. That'll be in Washburn, Missouri. Not too far up the road for me. Admission $10, children 16 and under are free, and then the event starts at 9 a.m. You see some of the details there about that event as well that's coming up on December the 6th and the 7th. We thank those folks for sending that in to us as well this evening. So always a good reenactment there at Pea Ridge. Had an ancestor that was at Pea Ridge. All right, moving along. Let's see what we've got next in our list. Here, one of these is if you haven't been to the National Confederate Museum, we always want to mention our museum. So much has been added over the past 5 years since the museum got open and built and completed, and now open on Saturdays from 9 until 4. So every Saturday you can come and tour as well and see the museum and all the artifacts that have been added. The timeline that was worked on by so many that wraps the walls of the museum just excellent to tell the story of our ancestors. So if you haven't been to the National Confederate Museum in Columbia, I encourage you to go there and to do that. All right, we've got a couple of more things we want to look at, then we'll take our first break, and then we'll come back and look at a couple of other events this evening, and then we'll get into our special program this evening from a previous Confederate memorial service that we held here with our camp in Humboldt back in 2022. So a new feature we're going to add to Tennessee Tuesday and SCV Chat should be interesting, and it's set up and ready to go here in just a moment. Now, we've talked about this gentleman here that you should know, DeWitt Smith Job, over the past 2 to 3 weeks, who is buried in Rutherford County in Mechanicsville. His grave site and the property that it's on is being developed. And we've talked about this a couple of times, and I've kind of put a message out to our SCV members and others right now as they're working on that property. Do not try to make an effort to go to that cemetery as they're working on the property. You could get yourself in a legal situation there. As we know, a couple of individuals that have been there have been faced with law enforcement telling them you can't be on that property. So that's being worked on by family members that are involved in this. Some descendants of DeWitt Smith Job's sister that descend from her. They're actively involved in it. There is a marker that was put there back probably close to 50 years ago now. And you see that marker there in the picture of the cemetery that was placed there by the gentleman who is descended from DeWitt Smith Job's sister. And there's that marker most recently in early September. Again, work is being done to preserve this cemetery. We've seen, and I have with my own eyes, the plat map for the development that's been through the Planning Commission that's in the process of the dirt work being done. And the cemetery is listed on that plat map. Now, there's not a deed or a partial for it, but it is on that plat map listed by the DeWitt Smith Job Cemetery, and it's marked off there. So that is a good sign. The SCV is watching this in Tennessee and keeping an eye on what's happening. We do have folks in that area that are working hard, a state representative. We've got folks in Nashville working, and of course, local representatives there that are keeping an eye on what's happening there with DeWitt Smith Job's cemetery and that family cemetery. We're sad to say that the cabin that was on the property has been lost. That has been demolished. Not too much we can do about that, as that has been purchased by the developer. And again, but we're looking to watch that cemetery to make sure it is safe. So there's you an update on DeWitt Smith Job's cemetery there in Rutherford County. Let's go ahead and take our first break. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about some other activities our camps in Tennessee have been involved in. And we'll be with you until around 8 o'clock this evening and a special presentation coming up here shortly on Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
And welcome back into Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat. I'm your host, John Blankenship, with you this evening, Tuesday, October the 21st. Hope you've had a nice day. Been a pretty day across West Tennessee. Getting a little chilly overnight and into the morning. We live in a 120-year-old house, so you probably know what I'm talking about. It gets a little chilly, and I hadn't wanted to turn on the heat yet, but that may be having to happen soon as we get into the fall full force here in the South. We want to say again, thanks to our sponsors for this evening. Of course, this commercial break that you just heard being sponsored by Dr. Chris Cummings. I hear he does a great job with knee issues. If you got some knee pain issues there, he can check you out. He is in Mississippi and does a fine job. Dr. Cummings, one of our sponsors here on SCV Chat and Tennessee Tuesday. So we again thank him. And if you'd like to be a sponsor as well, you can visit scvchat.com, and there's details of how you can join as a full sponsor with a commercial. You can get the name mentions as well. Lots of different options there to support the work that SCV Chat does this evening. Let's look at a few more things that have been happening. This event we've talked about here for a few weeks. It has just occurred this past weekend. We have some photographs that have been sent in to us this evening that we want to show from the Footpaths of History Cemetery Walk at Bethesda Presbyterian Church in East Tennessee. And let's go through a few of those photographs here from the evening that Jordy Barnett shared, the camp commander there at the Bradford Rose Camp in Morristown. This is their cemetery walk that they did in a candlelight type style. We'll go through a few of these photographs. Looks like they had a good crowd there. There's one from the distance. And here's another one up close of how they portrayed the individuals that they selected there for the cemetery walk and told their stories. Looks like several came out and attended a fundraiser there to help the upkeep of the historic church. That's a really neat image there. And I do like their signage that you see telling about each person with the photograph there that's by the one. And then, of course, the individual doing the living history part of the individual. Here's another one. If you've never been to one of these evening style events, definitely worth going to. And a great job they've done. We'll go through a couple more of these photos there at Bethesda Church in East Tennessee. And there's another one as the sun's beginning to set. And there's another one of them as the sun has gone down. And then one there of the church in the evening. And then here, of course, is an interior picture of the old church there just outside of Morristown. So great job there to Jordy Barnett and his camp and all those involved to help raise funds and save the Bethesda Church there in East Tennessee. Good job to the camp up there. Some new members that have come into the SCV over the past few days. The Otho French Straw Camp 176 in Union City has swore in some new members, Jeff Kincaid, Jared Fielder, and Jamie Alexander there. You'll see them pictured. So congratulations to them on becoming members, and a good job to Camp 176 and the efforts they're doing in Obion County and in Union City to recruit and bring new members into the SCV. Of course, that's the camp that I joined the SCV under many years ago. So a good job to Barry and all those folks at Camp 176 in Union City. One more final thing we want to go through, I've put out to our division members in the Tennessee division, is Lee Jackson banquets coming up. And if you've got one as well, remember you can always send those into us here at SCV Chat and Tennessee Tuesday. We'd be happy to mention those, as Lee Jackson banquets will be getting closer here in January and some into February. So we want to mention a couple of those in Tennessee that we know about. The Colonel Jeffrey Forrest Brigade having their banquet on January the 31st. That'll be at 6 o'clock. Past Commander-in-Chief and Tennessee Division Adjutant and co-host of Tennessee Tuesday, Jason Boshears, is going to be the guest speaker. And the host camp corps is the Otho French Straw Camp 176 in Union City. And it will be held there at Mount Zion Methodist Church. Very nice location there. And registration details are coming soon. Also, this one here was posted, the Longstreet Zollicoffer Camp 87 in Knoxville, having their Lee Jackson Day banquet, 33 years strong. It will be held at the Jubilee Banquet Hall on February the 6th in Knoxville. Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy will be the guest speaker for the evening. And that's always a great event there. And again, as you see, 100 present, they always have a large crowd there in Knoxville for their Lee Jackson banquet. So we appreciate them sending in that information on those Lee Jackson banquets in Tennessee. So if you've got one coming in Tennessee, we'd like to know about it so we can mention here on this program. And of course, if you have one in other divisions as well, we'd be happy to share that here. And I'm sure Moose and Connor would do that on the other programs throughout the week here at SCV Chat. So several great things happening around our division and around the Confederation. So again, thank you for watching this evening. Our time now 7:23 on a Tuesday evening, October the 21st. I'm solo tonight. Jason Boshears has a camp meeting. Moose is out and about this evening, so it's good to be along with you. We always thank you for being a part of this show. So next thing we've got to do, this is a presentation from 2022 that our camp, Camp 209, the Colonel R.M. Russell Camp in Humboldt here in West Tennessee, held our annual Confederate Memorial Day service. This took place at the B.F. Collinsworth Cemetery, which is just right outside of town. We recorded that presentation by the different, those that spoke this evening and that evening rather. And we're going to play one of those now for you. This is Mr. Jim Collinsworth, who is our lieutenant commander in our camp here. And Jim gave a small presentation here, a part of that day, about ancestors that he has buried in this small family cemetery just outside of town. There's 3 Confederate veterans, possibly 4, one that we know that was in the Home Guard, and also a past Tennessee Division commander of the SCV that's buried there as well, who died in 1911. So you'll learn about that and more in this presentation that took place in 2022 at the B.F. Collinsworth Cemetery, just outside of. Good morning. It is a beautiful morning here in West Tennessee. Good to see everybody out as we honor our ancestors here at the B.F. Collinsworth Cemetery. If you have a program today, I think we passed them all out, but if not, we'll kind of share it today, and you'll kind of see what all we'll be doing during this special service. Again, I'm John Blankenship, Lieutenant Commander of the Tennessee Division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, also Camp Commander for Camp 209 here in Humboldt. And we've done a few services in the past. Me and Jim Collinsworth, who is our lieutenant commander, we talked a little bit about, let's do something special, a little different. So this was a great place to come out, and Jim's going to tell you a little bit about some of the ancestors of his that are buried here. There are 3 Confederate soldiers that we know of for sure. There's one that served in the Home Guard, who possibly may have also served in the war as well. And there's also a past Tennessee Division Sons of Confederate Veterans commander buried here over on that corner there, where you'll see a flag there as well. So he'll be talking more about those that are buried here today. Again, we thank all those that have come out. It's going to be a nice day to honor our ancestors. And I do want to read you one thing. But back many years ago, a man by the name of Edward Ward Carmack, and this is an excerpt from his pledge to the South. And I wanted to read that today because it seems most appropriate. The South is a land that has known sorrows. It is the land that has broken the ashen crust and moistened it with tears. A land scarred and riven with the plowshare of war and billowed with the graves of her dead. But a land of legend, a land of song, a land of hallowed and heroic memories. To that land, every drop of my blood, every fiber of my being, every pulsation of my heart is consecrated forever. I was born of her womb. I was nurtured at her breast. And when my last hour shall come, I pray that God may be pillowed upon her bosom and rocked to sleep within her tender and encircling arms. Edward Ward Carmack, who was later killed on just outside of the Capitol grounds in Nashville. And that's a true thing seems most appropriate here today, as many of our ancestors laid here in this hallowed ground that fought for a cause which they believe, which we also believe as well, that was honorable and was worthy in the defense of their homeland. And some of the ones Jim's going to tell you about today, you grew up just down the hill here. And what a great place to be today. Next, this gentleman I have the honor to call not only a brother in the Sons of Confederate Veterans, a fellow historian, and who has become a great friend over the past several years, has got to know Jim. What you see here today, and he's going to tell you more about the past of this cemetery, but Jim is the main caretaker now of this property. A lot of the work you see of monuments that are being repaired and work that's been done, that's from Jim's handiwork. And he does a fantastic job, and he's dedicated to this cemetery, also the Mason Cemetery, which is just a couple of miles from here, as well as one near Nashville. But I know he's very honored to be here with us today. He's our Lieutenant Commander of Camp 209, Mr. Jim Collinsworth.
Well, thank you, John. We have become great friends.
Get a little lower, a little shorter now.
Okay. Yeah. We have become great friends, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here today. I want to thank each one of you for coming, and I'll try not to get too emotional, but please just bear with me if I do. I want to share, first of all, just a real brief history. As most of you remember, on April 12th, 1861, Fort Sumter was fired upon. On April 23rd, 1861, Private Ben F. Collinsworth enlisted in the 1st Kentucky Infantry. For some reason, he was in Nashville, Tennessee, or he might not have enlisted in that unit, but he's buried here where this stone is lying. A brief history is taken from the Confederate Military History, Volume 8, Chapter 1. On the 6th of May, 1861, the Tennessee legislature submitted an ordinance to the people of the state which embraced the question of separation from the federal government and of union with the Confederate States, to be voted upon on the 8th day of June following. On the 24th of the same month, the governor issued his proclamation declaring that it appears from the official returns that the people of the state of Tennessee have, in their sovereign capacity, by an overwhelming majority, cast their votes for separation, dissolving all political connection with the United States, and adopted the provisional government of the Confederate States of America. The legislature provided for the organization of an army, 50,000 men strong, appropriated $5 million toward its equipment, and provided for a complete general staff to be appointed by the governor, and for the pay of the officers and men. There was a veteran who survived the war from Jackson, Tennessee. I believe he was a member of the Confederate Danes. Excuse me, what is it, John? The Denmark Danes, yes, thank you. Wrote an account of his remembrance of the war. It's called 6th Regiment Tennessee Volunteers, Confederacy by Robert Gates. He says, the 6th Regiment Tennessee Volunteers was composed of 8 companies from Madison and 1 each from Fayette and Haywood counties. Camp Beauregard was established in Jackson in May 1861, and the companies comprising the 6th Regiment were the first to occupy the camp. The regiment was organized in May by the election of William H. Stevens of Madison County. Company I was called the Gadsden Spartans, was organized by Captain James M. Collinsworth at Gadsden, Tennessee. The 6th Regiment was very early celebrated for its proficiency in drill and its fine military bearing. The personnel of the regiment was very fine. The morale high. It was very largely composed of young men. There were very few men in the regiment over 35 years of age, and a large majority were under 30. They were fresh from happy and prosperous homes. Many had not finished their course at school or college. Many had just graduated with credit. All were boys or young men in good standing, and not a few of high promise. None had known hardships. Few had experienced sorrow. With the greatest number, life was full of gladness, and hope mounted to sorrow. With the greatest number, life was full of gladness, and hope mounted to heights on which the sun never sets, the heights around which, in never-ending succession, since the morning of time, have clustered the bright dreams of youth. On Thursday, May 23rd, the regiment was ordered to be ready to leave for the front. On Sunday, May 26th, it left Jackson over 1,200 strong for Union City, where an army was being concentrated to meet a probable invasion of Kentucky. The commanding officers endeavored to keep the day and hour of departure from the public, but in vain. The time became known on Saturday, and before the setting of the sun that day had spread all over the country. Sunday, May 26, 1861, dawned bright and beautiful, probably much like today. Upon a scene that no tongue or pen may describe, no genius breathed on immortal canvas. An entire people had assembled, tottering age and wandering infancy, stout-hearted fathers, tender, loving mothers, gentle wives, blushing maidens to say farewell, and bid Godspeed to the brave boys who were the first of all the county to rally around the Southern Cross. Neither before nor since has Jackson looked on such a crowd as assembled to greet the 6th Regiment on its departure for the war. The line of march from the camp to the M&O depot, the distance of 1.5 miles, was packed with people. The streets full, the houses covered, the very trees breaking with their human fruit. Now and then a cheer would break forth as the regiment, with difficulty, made its way through the throng. But sobs and sounds of weeping, women screaming and fainting with mingled excitement and grief, gave to that first march a wild and mournful character. At the depot, a sea of humanity surged around the train upon which the regiment was embarking. There were acres of weeping women, shouting men, frantic girls and boys. Many fainted. Many men and women went mad for the time. And over the troubled waves, now and then would sweep a wail of grief, startling and unnerving. The occasion, the mingled sentiment of heroic courage and grief at parting, of patriotism and of painful doubts as to the results of devotion to principle in homes, and of piercing fear that loved ones would upon each other. And the electricity that pervades a multitude, deeply stirred, conspired to make the occasion remarkable and memorable. It was a sea voicing its hopes, wailing its fears. It was a multitude without a smile. Another young man who served in this war from Gadsden was Robert S. Matthews. He wrote his recollections of the war. He said, a company of 110 men and boys were enlisted. James Collinsworth as captain. Bob Williams, first lieutenant, who's pictured beside James Collinsworth here to my right. First lieutenant was Bob Williams. William J. McKinney, second lieutenant. Ed Smith, third lieutenant. Bob said, we went to Jackson, Tennessee, and there we were enrolled as part of the 6th Tennessee Infantry Regiment. William Stevens of Jackson was colonel. The regiment went from Jackson to Union City, and there we learned our first lesson in the soldier's life under Brigadier General B.F. Cheatham and Major General Gideon Pillow. On June 2nd, 1861, at a place called Camp Duncan, Maryland Heights, opposite of Harper's Ferry, young Ben Collinsworth wrote his father, who's buried to my left here, B.F. Collinsworth. He said, dear Father, I could wish, if it would do any good, to be back in old Tennessee and a member of the Gadsden Spartans. But I fight my 12 months where I am. And if I leave my native, and if I survive and the war continues, I will go back and join the next band of heroes that leave my native land. I wish that I could be at home just a little while. Then I think I could stay here satisfied. But as it is, I never was as homesick in my life. Yours as ever, Ben F. Collinsworth. Once again, from Recollections of the War by Robert S. Matthews, the troops were ordered to New Madrid, Missouri from Union City, and were in camp about a mile from the river. And sometime in the month of August 1861, he states, I remember there was great excitement in the camp one day when the Yankees gunboat came down the river to capture a boatload of provisions that was up the river a mile from our camp. The alarm was given and we were ordered to the river in double quick time, a run, in shoe-mouth deep sand. If y'all have ever run through sand, you know that's not easy. When we got there, we were tired and wet with sweat. The gunboat did not get the provisions, but returned up the river. We stacked our arms and stayed there an hour or more and got cold and chilly. It was amusing to see how we huddled up together to get warm. That day was the last time I saw Captain James Collinsworth. He had a rising under his arm and had not been in charge of the company for several days, but took command that day and grew worse and was sent home, but did not get back alive. He was buried at the family graveyard at his father's. My second great-grandfather. Captain James Monroe Collinsworth was born October 5th, 1827 in Madison County, probably at Mason's Grove. He mustered in with his Gadsden Spartans on May 23rd, 1861 at Camp Fair, which is what Camp Beauregard was first called, in Jackson, and died of pneumonia at Tiptonville, Tennessee in a Confederate hospital. His father went by horse-drawn wagon to bring his body home for burial in the family graveyard. If you look at his original stone, It states, died in the service of his country, September 6, 1861. And at the bottom of the stone, his epitaph is, my God, my wife, my children, and my country. Things I wish our youth were taught to believe today, and I hope many are. Then a few months later, on May 14th, 1862, he became Sergeant, Private Collinsworth over here, Ben, received an honorable discharge after 12 months service in Company E, 1st Kentucky Infantry. A short time later, he enlisted as a private at Holly Springs in Company I, 16th Infantry, just like he had written his father he would do. Just 2 months after that, on July 28th, and Miss Margaret shared this with me. So happy that she was able to save this for us all. Ben Collinsworth was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, preparing for the invasion of Kentucky. And he said this, my native land, farewell. Hard it is to leave thee, yet fate decrees I must. Thy woods and vales no longer smiling greet me, but seem to whisper naught but sorrow. Thy fields no longer promise plenty, but seem sown for destruction. Thy people no longer breathe the pure air of freedom, but groan beneath the iron rod of tyranny. Oh, my country, what hast thou done that thou art so accursed? In the ranks of thy brave defenders there is a place for me. I go to fill it. Many weary days and nights must pass o'er my head. Many dangers I must pass ere I again behold thee. Yet I'll come when thy oppressors have been vanquished and peace again spreads her golden wings. When thy victorious sons return to cheer thy desolate hearted and build up thy broken fortune, I'll come. Once more, farewell. My God in mercy soon help thee in thy distress and relieve thy people from oppressions. And soon may no land be more fresh and green and no people more happy than thine, Ben. Just a very short time later, Ben was promoted to first sergeant, August 2nd, 1862. And little Bob Robert Matthews, once again, from his recollections, he says, I have overlooked some little things that occurred on the march that I call acts of kindness from my true friends. The first was on the Kentucky campaign. The command had stopped for camp at night when Ben Collinsworth remarked, you tired rebels who want water, bring up your canteens. He called me and two old men, Andrew Patrick and John Patterson, took our canteens with several others. He did not know how far to go for water. I have not forgotten him yet. He was killed in the battle at Perryville. The uniform I wear today was probably what was worn by the 6th Tennessee at Perryville. Sergeant Ben Collinsworth was born December 29th, 1837. He was wounded October 8th at the Battle of Perryville at Chaplain Hills by a mini ball to the right groin. He died 20 days later in a Confederate hospital there in Perryville. If you read his headstone, you will also see the deep sentiment that our Southern patriots held. He died at his post. His epitaph reads, readers, stop and view this spot, where at last thy race will end. Since it is the common lot, strive to make thy God thy friend. behold my grave, how low I lie. As you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you must be. Prepare for death and follow me. A very broken-hearted father once again harnessed his horse to a wagon and went from here. Their home is where that little white house is below the hill. The original log house is inside that building. He went from here to Perryville, and he brought that son home. And he's buried there near his mother and father. And then the third patriot, Brother Michael, is standing there beside him. Andrew Jackson Collinsworth, the Honorable and A.J. Collinsworth, because he served in the Senate of Tennessee, was born February 6, 1844, and died November 7, 1906. He worked on the farm, attended the district school until the outbreak of the war. At the age of 17, he entered the Army, joining Jesse L. Branch's company and then the 47th Tennessee Regiment at Trenton, commanded by Colonel M.R. Hill. He served in the war with distinction by being one of the bravest boys and hardest fighters in the service. He was severely wounded in what was known as the hardest picket fight during the war at Corinth, Mississippi, by Minnie Ball, which shattered his leg and from which he never fully recovered. On the day of A.J. Collinsworth's burial, the funeral procession of horse and wagons was nearly 2 miles long. If you know where the old Collinsworth place is, that A.J. built for his second wife, Betty Raines, the road was nothing but horses and wagons all the way to the cemetery that day. And they say it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon before they could get everybody in close enough to have the funeral, and I think it was probably scheduled for about 10 a.m. So, very, very admired gentleman. Then we have Thomas Jesse Craddock. And for whatever reason, Thomas Jesse was appointed by the Gibson County Court to be one of the Minutemen or the Home Guard. We don't have as much history on Thomas Jesse as I would like to have, but I know that he raised a very large family. He was a brother-in-law to these other 3 young men and the son-in-law of B.F. and Betsy Collinsworth. Had a very large family, as I said, and he served in that capacity. He very likely served with his brother, who formed Company H, 12th Tennessee Cavalry. Probably his brother, Captain Millard Craddock, formed that company and was elected captain of it on October 10th, 1863. And so we're still searching for the records to prove that service, but the Craddock family has always believed that to be true, and we're just going to take that at what we know at this point, and we want to prove it someday with the documents. But thank you all. I hope this hasn't bored you, and I hope my tears haven't kept you from hearing what I had to share with you today. God bless these men, and God bless Dixie.
Thank you very much, Jim. And we talked before. Jim said he hoped he would make it through that. It's very tough, even though it's connected to us all. It's all a part of our history. But to those that are here that are descendants and related, it means even that much more. And there's that
Thank you,
video
John.
that I
Bye,
was
John.
telling you about. Again, we thank Jim Collinsworth for that great presentation here on Tennessee Tuesday. That's from 2022 in our Confederate Memorial Service we held at the B.F. Collinsworth Cemetery just outside of Humboldt, and wanted to bring that presentation to you tonight to share a little bit about some of our Confederate ancestors locally from this part of West Tennessee. So I do hope you enjoyed that presentation this evening. Again, that was from 2022. And we do thank you for watching the program this evening. Hello to several other folks there. We appreciate Charles LeRae there joining us. I hope you enjoyed that presentation by Jim. Jim's done a lot of research on his ancestors, and you saw those tombstones and what it says on those. Very unique. You don't see that in many places, but again, great presentation tonight, and hope y'all enjoyed that. Several other folks checking in. Mark Thomas, I hope you're doing well tonight. Thank you for being with us on Tennessee Tuesday here on SCV Chat. Again, thank you, Mr. Roy Hudson, for joining this evening as well. I hope you've enjoyed that presentation tonight. And let's go ahead and jump into a few more things before we wrap up this edition of Tennessee Tuesday. And let me get back to some of our photographs that we want to share this evening as we wrap up. Again, we want to mention one more time the National Confederate Museum, the hours Monday through Friday from 9 until 4 there. Of course, we hope you'll make your way to the National Confederate Museum in Columbia. If you have not been, you will enjoy your visit there and probably spend at least a couple of hours, if not longer, looking through the artifacts and the timeline that's shared, and just a great museum. It's our museum, the National Confederate Museum in Columbia. Great job that's done there by Adam Southern and all his staff there at HQ. And then now open on Saturday as well from 9 until 4. So if you haven't been and not able to go during the week, you now have an opportunity to go on Saturday from 9 until 4. So there's the hours for the National Confederate Museum. Again, that's in Columbia. Fantastic museum telling the story of the Confederate soldier. This I shared on our Tennessee Division Facebook group for our members as I've gotten my reservations done for the national reunion that's coming up in Lexington, Kentucky in July of 2026 there, July the 15th through the 19th. And when I called to get my hotel booked for the week and the days that I will be there, I was told by the person on the phone that those rooms are going quickly and not too many left in the host hotel. So if you haven't booked your stay there in Lexington, Kentucky for the SCV National Reunion, I encourage you to do so. And again, 131scb.org is the website. You can register not only for the event and all the activities going on with the National Reunion, but also there you can get registered and set up with the host hotel, hard for me to say this evening. So make your plans to go ahead and get that done and be with us in 2026 at the National Reunion in Lexington, Kentucky. Again, 131scb.org. is where you will find that information. Again, I hope you've enjoyed Tennessee Tuesday this evening. We'll be back along with you again next week. We've got a special guest that will join us. Mr. Channing Green from East Tennessee will be live with us here on the program. We'll be talking about all of his work that he does in restorations of cemeteries, monuments, the repair work he does, the maintaining of those cemeteries, and he does a fantastic job, and he is a very busy man, so we look forward to learning more about his work and how you can help him out on the great work he does in Middle and East Tennessee. He also works on a family cemetery of mine, takes care of that and mows that each month, replace some signage, and he's working on some stones that need to be repaired. Gives a lot of his own time and finances to make this happen. And if you would like to learn more about him, next week is where you want to be, here with us on Tennessee Tuesday. He is award-winning, and that's not making that up. He is award-winning in the work he does, and we appreciate him in the Tennessee Division. And Mr. Channing Green will be with us next week as our guest here on Tennessee Tuesday. Again, we thank Jim there. Jim commenting tonight. Glad to be able to bring that presentation to you this evening. There's Steve joining us as well. And good to see Steve. He's working on something great down in the southern part of West Tennessee. We'll be talking about and getting set up very soon. So look forward to talking to Steve this week. Chuck also checking in this evening. Of course, Chuck has an ancestor that's not far where he was raised from where I am, just about 4 or 5 miles from here. And their ancestral home is still there, going back to the 1840s. And the Wade family, who was in the 12th Tennessee. So appreciate Chuck checking in this evening, and several other folks with us tonight. We thank you for sharing this video out to the different social media outlets. That's how this channel grows and how we do more with SCV Chat and Tennessee Tuesday, is by you sharing that out. It's just about 8 o'clock and about time to wrap up this evening. As I told you, we'd keep the program to an hour, and just want to kind of look around here and see if there's anything else we missed that we do want to mention here to you. Again, we talked earlier, and I do want to mention DeWitt Smith Job, who was killed, horribly suffered in the war and gave his life. We've talked about this several times, but again, that cemetery there that's in Rutherford County, you can see it more recently in September. That property that it sits on is being developed to the SCV and the Tennessee Division, and several other individuals are watching this site closely to see what happens, and our family members involved with it as well, so we can work to preserve this cemetery. A very important thing we do. It's what the charge was given to us for, to remember our ancestors. We're paraphrasing there a little bit, but that's what we're here for. That's what our charge is given, is to remember them and honor them, and that's what the Sons of Confederate Veterans exist for. So again, we thank you for listening this evening. I want to remind you our disclaimer there, that the views and opinions that you've heard on the show tonight are solely those the one making those, and not any divisions, the GEC, the brigades, camps, or other subsidiaries of the SCV. So again, it's our opinion only. That can be dangerous, can't it? Again, it's John Blankenship with you this evening. Jason Boshears had the night off, as Jason is having their camp meeting tonight. Moose is out and about as well. And again, we miss those guys and hope they'll be back with us very, very soon. I know Jason's going to be out next week, so it will be me and Channing Green with you next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Central Time here on Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat. I do hope you have yourself a great rest of this evening. Thank you so much, as always, for taking time out of your day and all the work you do in the SCV, and to honor our ancestors, each one of you, no matter how small, how large that may be. Thank you. Thank you so much. And a good night to some folks that are leaving us now. Again, we're so glad that you took time out this evening to be with us. You saw that Moose shared on the SCV Chat Facebook page that it's time to start submitting your request if you'd like to be on a future program. If you're running for a national office, those elections will be here next summer, and that'll be here before we know it. So I know he's starting to schedule those interviews on some of the other programs. So reach out to Moose through SCV Chat, and you'll be able to make your plans to be there and tell what your platform is and how you plan to further the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So be watching for that. Moose will have more information, and we'll keep you updated here on things happening in Tennessee on Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat. Again, thank you so much for watching tonight. Hope you've enjoyed this program, and we will be back with you next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. God bless you.